Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In this day and age when we are all pressurized for various things, to earn a living, to get more things, to get more contacts, and whatever it is that we are striving for, why add one more element of stress, one more activity to our already burdened souls, which is one more activity of the Bhagavad Gita? I understood this when in Los Angeles, my host, the lady who had organized the lectures there, when I landed there, she told me, I'm directionally challenged. So I said, this is a new term that I'm hearing, but you can't ask them what is it because they think you're stupid. So I kept quiet. After we got into the car, then I realized what she meant by directionally challenged. She had what is known as a GPS system. You know what it is? Global Positioning System, a car computer in her installed, so that she could find her way, and it was brilliant because every step of the way, every turn that she took, there's a voice that comes and says, 10 miles down the road, take this exit and go here and go there, and till you reach your destination, it's all spelled out. So even the most stupid person can't get lost there. Otherwise, if you don't have this system, you're constantly taking U-turns there. So then I understood the role of the Bhagavad Gita in life is, the Bhagavad Gita is a life positioning system. You end up never losing your way. It always shows the way. And there is a clear path to achieving what you want to achieve. The problem with us is that most of us don't know what we want in life. And the few people who know what we want don't know how to get it. There's a young man who was sitting next to me on the flight from Bombay the other day, and he told me the same thing. He says, I know that I have tremendous potential within me. I know what I want to achieve, but somehow I seem to be working at cross purposes with myself. I take 3 steps forward, 2 steps backward. To which I said, you're not the only one. All of us are in the same boat. All of us are doing exactly the same thing. We want to achieve something, and we do things that get us the opposite result. Let's take an example of enjoyment. All of us want to enjoy life. Are we all enjoying? What we do is, we go all out into the world and indulge, and what happens is, what functions is the law of diminishing returns. So the more you have, the less you enjoy. That's how in the world today there are only 2 categories of people. Those who have the resources don't enjoy because they've indulged and they've lost the enjoyment. And those who have the capacity to enjoy, unfortunately, don't have the resources. So you end up with a stalemate there. Next comes action. We're all looking for success. And we act, we work hard, but we don't know how to achieve that success. Success comes when you are able to step out of yourself, step out of your petty-mindedness, your small-mindedness, just obsession with wanting to do things for yourself and putting someone, something, anything ahead of yourself. And that gives tremendous power. You've heard of Shantaram? Yes? He is the person who is in the news these days because he was leading a life he first of all took to drugs. He's not an Indian. If I'm not mistaken, he's Australian, right? And to support the drugs he took to crime. And he ended up in a mess. And at some point in time, he changed. And so somehow he landed in India. And he was living in a village in Maharashtra, and that's how he got the name Shantaram. The villagers couldn't understand what his name was, so they nicknamed him Shantaram. This gentleman the other day was interviewed, and the journalist asked him, said, "What was the turning point in your life? What made you shift?" And he said, "There was a time when I wanted to break out of a German prison, and suddenly I thought to myself, I said, my mother will be terribly distressed if I do this." And then he says, "I thought that I should not put my mother through this suffering all over again." And he said, "That was the first time in my life that I put someone ahead of myself. And that gave me the strength to battle all my challenges and emerge victorious. If just one thought of somebody, something other than yourself can give you so much power." Just the thought of the mother gave him the power to go through with all that he had to come clean. What must it be like if you fix a higher ideal? This is what you need to understand. If the more self-centered you are, the more selfish you are, you just wallow in self-pity. In fact, your grief increases. There was a gentleman who lost his son, and he went to his guru and said, "God can't do this to me. You have to get God to give me back my son." And the guru said, "Sure, I'll do this for you. I'll ensure that your son comes back to you, but you have to do something for me." He says, "What do I have to do?" He said, "Get me a little salt from a home that has not known sorrow." So he said, "Just that?" He says, "Yeah." And he was confident that he'd be able to achieve that. So he went from door to door asking people, "Have you any sorrow?" And you know what? He never went back to the guru. He never went back to ask for his son, because he understood that there were other people in the world who were suffering much more than he was. And then he got involved in trying to help them overcome their sorrow. In the bargain, he completely forgot about his own sorrow. This is what happens to us. We wallow in self-pity. You speak to anybody. Don't ever make the mistake of asking people, "How are you? How is life with you?" Because you will be burdened with all the problems that the person has. On the other hand, step out of yourself. You know, the Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd chapter, verse 10, makes a statement that each one of us should grapple to our souls and never let go of that. What does he say? He says, "Sahayajna praja sruštva purovacha prajapati anena prasavishyadvam eshavos tvishta kamadho." When Prajapati, the creator, created the human being, he created the human being with a unique gift. He endowed all human beings with an outstanding gift, and that is the gift of sacrifice. The ability to sacrifice is a gift that only the human being has, no other creature has. And then he says, "With this may you prosper." Now what does that mean? You know what it means? Without it, it is impossible to prosper. Now get back to our lives. Every one of us is trying to prosper without sacrifice. And therefore it is that if at all you succeed, You succeed for a while and again back to square one. It's like the saying, water seeks its own level. Whatever you do, you pull it out, ultimately you come back to your level of selfishness. When are we going to learn this ability to leverage this gift that the Creator has given to us, the gift of sacrifice, and then prosperity will shower down on you. You don't need to work for it, you don't need to look for it, you don't need to worry, when will prosperity come to me? You'll get so much of it, you won't know what to do with it. This is what happened to Sant Tukaram. You've heard of Sant Tukaram? He was an ordinary person living in a village, a very simple life. They never had enough money because this man, poor man, was always jobless. And his wife is always after him. He said, what is the use of seeking God? What is the use of loving God when that your God doesn't do anything for us? And finally, he decides, yes, my wife is right, I should go and look for a job. And he goes looking for a job. He gets, there's a farmer, a rich farmer, who's going away to another town. So he says, you look after my fields and I'll give you X amount of money. He's sitting there sincerely trying to look after the field, but he just can't. His thoughts go towards God. And what happens is his enemies, people who are against him, they allow cattle to come in and the whole crop is destroyed. So the farmer comes back and he's livid, he's so angry with him. He says, I gave you one simple job to do and you couldn't do it. I fire you and I'm going to take away your home. So he goes back feeling very disheartened that now not only do I not have a job, my home is also gone. And then the harvest season comes and the farmer gets a bumper crop, 50 times the normal harvest. That's when he realizes, he says, I made a terrible mistake by sacking Tukaram because it's his grace that I have received this bumper crop. And he goes and gives it to Tukaram. So all these stories, there are many such stories where when you step out of yourself and focus your attention on something beyond yourself, prosperity rains down on you to the extent that you don't know what to do with it. This is action. Then emotion. All of us are suffering from a disease called separateness. The moment you wake up and open your eyes, you look around you and you see people separate from you. And it is this feeling of separateness that causes all the problems in the world. If only you were able to see the underlying oneness. If you are able to see people as partners, not opponents, as collaborators, not competitors. This is what gives strength. This is what gives power. This is what gives enjoyment. Then even the most tedious tasks, even the jobs that are drudgery, become extremely enjoyable. I remember when we were children, during the summer when pickle was made and papad was made and all that, nobody went out and bought. It was all made at home. And you know what they used to do? A whole lot of ladies used to get together and each one used to bring their own ingredients. But the pickle making and the papad making was all done in a community all together. And it was so much fun and laughter and cheer and a sense of togetherness that nobody experienced the drudgery of making all these things. Today, we'll all live in nuclear homes. You are all alone. There's nobody comes to help you. You don't go to help anybody. There's no sense of oneness at all. So, what happened? Papad making and pickle making has come to an end. Stop. All you do is go buy it. As long as you see separateness, Swami Ramatirtha says, the truth is that there is no separateness. If you see it, it's got to be your delusion, your imagination. So somehow, wherever you see separateness, wherever you feel this hatred, wherever you see this repulsion and revulsion, you have to work with your attitude and try to overcome that. Because it's not out there, it's here. The classic example of when you show a mirror to a monkey, what does it see? Another monkey. And the moment the monkey sees another monkey, it sees separateness. That is the starting point of all its problems. Because then what happens? It feels insecure, it feels threatened, and because of this insecurity, it attacks the other monkey, or what it thinks is the other monkey. And what happens? It breaks the mirror and hurts itself. Suppose we were to place a mirror before you, what do you see? See, already I see smiles on your faces. You see yourself. And the moment you see yourself in the mirror, what joy it gives, what a thrill it gives you. Has it ever occurred to you, the ugliest person in the world finds tremendous joy admiring himself in the mirror? Why? Because of the sense of oneness. So, from this you learn that the revulsion and the hatred lies in our minds, it's not out there. The same person that you hate, in fact, take it as a challenge. This Vedanta, the Bhagavad Gita, is an experiential knowledge. Unless you put it to the test, unless you live it in your life, you never benefit from it. So when you go home this evening, you have homework today, Everybody gets homework. Your children and grandchildren get homework. Now you get a taste of what it is. The homework for the day is, pick on a person you hate most. Usually it's the mother-in-law. And try and look at the same person in a different perspective. This is what Shankaracharya calls Pratipaksha Bhavana. Pratipaksha Bhavana is to view the same person, same thing, same situation from a different perspective. And you'll find that actually the person is not so bad after all. Most of the hatred emerges from your imagination. You imagine that the person is trying to insult you. You imagine that the person is trying to hurt you. And all this stems from a feeling of separateness. The moment there is oneness, the most tedious jobs become enjoyable. The other day, the member of the family went through surgery. It's not very pleasant going to hospital and sitting around there and looking after the person and all that. But when there is a feeling of oneness, you convert an unpleasant thing, unpleasant task, into a pleasant task. All of us were together. Very rarely do we get together. So all of us were together in the hospital room. It became one long picnic there. So that's the thing. And the same experience of visiting a hospital to see a patient becomes extremely painful if you don't have this sense of oneness. If you have this sense of otherness, then what happens? You give excuses. Oh, there's so much work, I can't come and visit you. And by the time the patient comes home, and then you say, I was planning to come and visit you, but then you quickly went home. As if to say, the patient has to remain in hospital for you to make up your mind to go home. Otherness and oneness. So you have to put it into your life, experiment with it, test it out for yourself, and then see the difference. When you see the difference, you'll never go back to separateness. There was a tennis player, it actually impacts on your success. There was a tennis player who used to play the Grand Slam events, and every time he came up to quarterfinals, semifinals, he found he was losing. And he and the coach sat down together and analyzed. It was not that he was less skilled than the others, it wasn't that he was less talented than the others, it was simply that he got anxious. And they found out the cause of the anxiety was, he himself discovered. He says, I look upon the other guy as a competitor, as an opponent. And that's what makes me anxious. So he changed his attitude and he realized that actually he's not my competitor, he's not my opponent, he's my partner. Why? Because I am dedicated to raising the bar of tennis. I am dedicated to playing the best tennis ever. And so is he. So that makes him my partner. And as long as both of us play to the best of our ability, as long as both of us entertain the crowds, give value to the audience, it doesn't matter who loses and who wins. The moment he took this attitude, you know what happened? The very next event he played for, he won. This is an outstanding ability of viewing competitors as partners. The moment you change your attitude, you win, never mind what happens to the other guy. Here we are in a situation where we are making partners as competitors. We are making family members as enemies. How can you expect to win? How can you expect to come out successful? The next thing is the intellect. The outstanding ability of the intellect, human intellect, is to be able to decipher the difference between what is permanent and what is impermanent in life. And we are not exercising that option at all. We're looking at the impermanent and projecting permanence on it. And getting entangled in it, involved in it. All of us are functioning, living. Our entire lives are spent on just superficial things. The other day a lady met me and said, I believe you're from here, from Delhi. She said, I believe you're coming to Delhi for lectures. I said, yes. Oh, I wish I could attend. I can't because I'm very busy with wedding preparations. I said, oh, I didn't know there was a wedding in your family. She said, no, there's no wedding in my family. But I've got invitations to so many weddings that I have to go shopping. Superficial level. You believe, her point was, I have to go to 10 weddings, so I have to get 10 new outfits made. Because how can I wear the same thing to every wedding? The fact of the matter is, nobody cares. Nobody even notices. You see, a person with merit, if you look at the more permanent aspects of life, Einstein, you think Einstein is a great person? Yeah. His entire wardrobe consisted of 4 identical suits. Identical. You know why? Because when you open your wardrobe, you have to think about what to wear. He didn't want to waste his time with non-essentials of life. Opened the wardrobe without thinking whatever he wore was okay. Did the world think any the less of him? Gandhiji didn't wear even that. What a status he has in the world, the likes of which no other human being has. So, even if you want people to think well of you, think about it. On the other hand, you have the Mrs. Marcos, the wife of the ex-president of the Philippines, had 3,000 pairs of shoes. What does the world think of her? Right? Now you have these two extremes, and now you figure out where you are in between. So the ability, what you need to do is remove the clutter of the impermanent, and the permanent that is already there in you shines forth. In fact, even if you want to impress people, it is simplicity that impresses people. You get invited to so many places, you go to so many homes, but there was one home that I was invited to recently, and I remember I was so impressed with that home. All of us were, whoever was invited, because there was zero clutter. Completely simple house. Very, very simple food but delicious. Simple furniture, aesthetic. Simple, everything was simple. And there was no clutter whatsoever. No hundreds of paintings hanging on the wall, no tables and furniture and everything covered with things. Clutter. Similarly, within us, the mind is full of the clutter of impermanent, trivial, unimportant